If you are currently dating a woman and she routinely drops certain specific phrases into your conversations, I do not care how deeply you love her, how long you have been together, or how physically attractive she is, you need to pack your things, rescue your sanity, and walk away immediately. We are not talking about the occasional heated argument, a bad mood after a long day at work, or harmless, playful banter that happens in every healthy relationship. We are talking about highly specific linguistic patterns that expose a deeply rooted mindset, her true intentions, and the exact level of respect or utter lack thereof that she holds for you as a man. The harsh reality of modern dating is that the vast majority of men routinely ignore these glaring warning signs because they are completely blinded by initial attraction, intoxicated by the idea of love, or driven by a subconscious fear of being alone. They jump through mental hoops to make excuses for her, convincing themselves that she just had a stressful week, that she didn't mean it the way it sounded, or that it simply isn't that serious. But here is an uncomfortable truth about human nature that you must accept today. People rarely say highly damaging things by absolute accident. When a woman speaks to you, especially in moments of tension, she is peeling back the curtain and revealing exactly how she views your worth, even if she attempts to camouflage it behind a sweet smile, a soft voice, or a comforting embrace. To truly protect yourself, you have to understand that female psychology is highly sophisticated and heavily rooted in subtle, nuanced communication. While men tend to be overt, direct, and literal in their speech, women are often absolute masters of subtext, tone, and emotional undertone. A woman can deliver a devastating, highly toxic blow straight to your confidence and your masculinity, using a voice that sounds almost caring, leaving you confused, disarmed, and second-guessing your own judgment. The exact second you choose to let these seemingly small comments slide without a firm, unyielding boundary, you are not being a patient, understanding partner. You are actively training her to treat you with disrespect. You are teaching her that your boundaries are flexible, your feelings are negotiable, and your self-worth is entirely up for debate. This isn't about becoming a paranoid, hypervigilant boyfriend who overreacts to every single syllable or looks for a fight at every turn. It is about recognizing that words are literal windows into a person's core character and true nature. If she is using the 5 specific phrases we are going to dissect today, it isn't just a mild red flag that you can talk through in couples therapy. It is a full-blown, sirens blaring emergency telling you that your relationship is actively eroding your peace of mind and chipping away at your identity. By the time you finish reading this script, you will understand the deep psychological machinery behind these phrases, why they are so incredibly lethal to a man's mental health, and how recognizing them early can save you from years of wasted time, severe emotional trauma, and a toxic relationship that will slowly but surely destroy your soul. Many of you reading this right now are already hearing these exact words in your current relationships, and if that is the case, you have a massive, defining decision to make by the end of this video. The first phrase that should make you immediately reevaluate your entire relationship is the classic line, "You're too sensitive." When a woman uses this phrase against you, it is vital that you understand it is almost never an objective, accurate assessment of your emotional state. Instead, it is a highly calculated, defensive manipulation tactic designed for one explicit purpose: to completely dodge accountability for her actions. This phrase represents one of the most psychologically insidious ways to dismiss a man's feelings, flip the script, and avoid having to apologize for poor behavior. It is never spoken to help you toughen up, nor is it said out of genuine concern for your emotional resilience. It is deployed to make you completely doubt your own perception of reality. A healthy, thriving relationship is built on a foundation of absolute mutual respect and the freedom to communicate openly when something is wrong. When you gather the courage to bring up something that genuinely bothered or hurt you, and her immediate instinctual response is to laugh it off, roll her eyes, or accuse you of being overly emotional or acting like a woman, she is making a conscious choice to shut you down. She is communicating loud and clear that she has zero interest in understanding your perspective, validating your experience, or modifying her behavior to protect your peace. The deeper, long-term psychological problem with tolerating this behavior is that it creates a slow-burning form of trauma known as gaslighting. Over the course of months or years, as this phrase is repeatedly thrown in your face, you will subconsciously start to question your own sanity and your own judgment. You will find yourself hesitating to speak up when she blatantly crosses a line, suppresses your boundaries, or treats you poorly, because you have been systematically conditioned to believe that your feelings are irrational, your standards are too high, and that you are simply the problem. This is precisely how respect in a relationship dies, not in one massive, explosive blowout argument that ends everything overnight, but in hundreds of small, repeated, everyday moments where your voice is silenced and your emotional boundaries are trampled on. In the realm of psychology, labeling a man as too sensitive is a profound power move because it attacks his masculinity at its core. By implying that you are too fragile, she effectively shifts the blame from her toxic behavior to your supposed emotional weakness. The very moment you accept this treatment and swallow your anger, you send a clear signal that it is perfectly acceptable for her to keep moving the goalposts and crossing your lines. Let us look at a concrete, real-world example to see how this plays out in everyday life. Imagine you have made reservations at a nice restaurant and you have been sitting at the table alone, waiting for her for over 40 minutes. She finally shows up, offers no phone call, no text message warning you she was running late, and no genuine apology when she sits down. You calmly, respectfully, and firmly look at her and say, "Hey, I really don't appreciate being kept waiting like this without a heads up. I feel like my time isn't being respected." Instead of taking ownership of her lateness, she smirks, waves her hand dismissively, and says, "Wow, you are way too sensitive. It's just traffic. It's really not that big of a deal." This is not a harmless, casual comment. It is an aggressive, deliberate psychological maneuver designed to shift the focus from her blatant disrespect of your time to your supposed inability to handle minor inconveniences. If you sit there, accept her excuse, and try to change the subject to keep the vibe positive, you have just set a permanent precedent that your time, your comfort, and your boundaries are entirely optional in her eyes. Men, you must remember this rule for the rest of your life. A woman who truly respects you as a man will lean in to address your concerns with care, not mock them. If she is incredibly quick to label your basic boundaries as emotional sensitivity, she is showing you her cards. Your feelings rank dead last on her list of priorities, and the smartest move you can make is to walk away before you lose both her respect and your own. The second phrase that requires an immediate exit strategy is, "You should be more like name." When a woman starts openly comparing you to other men in your social circle, your workplace, or even the public eye, she is absolutely not making an innocent, passive observation or trying to offer constructive criticism. What she is actually doing is explicitly telling you that, in her eyes, you are fundamentally inadequate and falling short of her standards as a partner. Whether she is comparing your financial success to her best friend's husband, your physique to a random fitness influencer on Instagram, or your personality to an ex-boyfriend from her past, the underlying psychological message is utterly toxic. You are failing to meet my standard, and I am actively looking outside of this relationship for what a real man should be. This is easily one of the most corrosive, damaging things a man can ever hear from the woman he loves, because it directly attacks his competitive drive and his sense of masculine competence. It deliberately plants an invasive seed of deep insecurity in your mind, and once that seed takes root, it systematically devours your confidence, your self-assuredness, and your entire sense of personal worth. The hidden psychological mechanics behind this comparison game are incredibly sinister. Women are intensely aware of how much these external comparisons hurt a man's pride and competitive spirit. While a very small percentage might do it carelessly without thinking, the vast majority use it as a highly calculated, manipulative strategy to force you into a state of perpetual compliance where you are constantly chasing her elusive approval. The exact second you make the mistake of competing with an imaginary, idealized standard or another living man, you stop being your authentic, grounded self. You subconsciously begin molding your personality, your behaviors, and your life goals into what you desperately think she wants, turning yourself into a people pleaser. Ironically, this is the absolute fastest way to completely destroy whatever microscopic shred of attraction she had left for you, because women are fundamentally repelled by men who lack an internal compass and bend to the whims of others. A woman who truly respects, values, and loves you for who you are will always encourage your personal growth and push you to be a better version of yourself. But she will do so by highlighting your unique potential, never by holding up another man as the blueprint you need to copy. Consider how this toxic dynamic manifests in a standard scenario. Let us say you have been working grueling 80-hour weeks at your job, sacrificing your sleep, your hobbies, and your gym routine to secure a promotion or build a stable financial future for the two of you. One evening, as you are sitting on the couch exhausted, she looks over at her phone, sighs, and casually remarks, "You know, you should really be more like James from my marketing department. He works hard too, but he is always so impeccably dressed, goes to the gym every single morning, and has so much vibrant energy." On the surface, an insecure man would take this as motivation and promise to wake up earlier to work out harder. But in reality, she has just delivered a massive insult disguised as a casual observation. She has openly told you that another man is performing better than you in areas that matter to her, and she is implying that you need to transform yourself into him to maintain her interest. This isn't inspiration or helpful relationship feedback. It is blatant disrespect masked as advice. Over time, these endless comparisons chip away at your identity until the confident, strong man she was originally attracted to is completely replaced by a broken, insecure shell. Men, hear me clearly on this. The moment a woman places another man on a pedestal above you in your own relationship, it is not a healthy challenge for you to improve. It is an unmistakable sign to pack your bags and leave before your self-worth is entirely demolished. The third phrase that serves as a massive alarm bell is the cold, defiant proclamation, "I don't need you." In modern dating culture, this phrase is frequently celebrated and glorified under the banner of fierce independence, female empowerment, and self-sufficiency. However, when it is repeatedly weaponized within the private context of an intimate romantic relationship, it is almost always a deeply manipulative psychological power play designed to send a specific chilling message. You are completely optional, entirely expendable, and easily replaceable. On the surface, she might defend the comment by claiming she is simply stating the obvious reality that she can pay her own bills, drive her own car, and survive perfectly fine as a single woman, all of which are perfectly fine and admirable traits. But when she goes out of her way to look you in the eye and state this during a disagreement or a moment of vulnerability, the subtext hits infinitely deeper. Your presence in my life provides no unique value, your protection means nothing, and losing you would not impact my world in the slightest. To understand why this is so profoundly destructive, we have to look at the foundational architecture of romantic bonds. Intimate relationships only thrive, grow, and remain stable when both partners feel deeply needed, intensely valued, and genuinely appreciated for what they uniquely bring to the table. When a woman constantly pushes the "I don't need you" narrative, she is intentionally throwing off the healthy balance of power in the relationship. She is installing herself on a higher psychological plane, making it crystal clear that she views herself as the absolute authority and you as a mere temporary luxury or a convenient option, rather than an irreplaceable priority. Think about the sheer emotional drainage of this dynamic. You wake up every single day putting in massive effort, providing financial support, offering emotional stability, and showing up consistently whenever she needs help. Yet, she flippantly tosses out this phrase as if all of your sacrifices, your labor, and your devotion mean absolutely nothing to her. Over a long enough timeline, this attitude completely paralyzes a man's innate desire to invest in the relationship, because no sane, self-respecting human being wants to keep pouring their limited energy, time, and heart into a person who acts like they are doing you a massive favor by letting you stand in their presence. Let us be completely honest about the balance here. Yes, in a mature relationship, neither partner should be so pathologically dependent on the other that it borders on toxic trauma bonding or financial survival. It is fantastic to date a capable, independent woman. However, there is a massive, unbridgeable chasm between healthy individual independence and cold, calculated emotional detachment. True, mature independence within a relationship sounds like this. I am fully capable of handling my life on my own, but I deeply cherish, love, and need the unique strength, love, and masculine support you bring into my world. Conversely, emotional detachment sounds like this. I am completely self contained, and if you steps out of line or fail to please me, I can replace you with someone else tomorrow without shedding a single tear. When a woman embraces the latter mindset, you will begin to feel it rot every single aspect of her behavior. She will completely stop expressing gratitude for the small, thoughtful gestures you do for her. She will entirely ignore your hard work. She will make major life, financial, and scheduling decisions without ever consulting you. And she will carry herself with an aura of total arrogance, as if your departure would be a non event. Men, you can instantly feel the difference when a woman genuinely respects your presence and values your role as her man. The "I don't need you" mantra isn't a sign of a strong woman. It is a clear warning that her emotional connection to you is completely broken, and if you ignore it, you will wake up stuck in a relationship where you are completely invisible. The fourth phrase that requires an absolute non-negotiable hard stop is the classic manipulation trap. If you loved me, you would action. This phrase can often sound incredibly innocent, soft, or even romantic to an untrained or inexperienced ear, but make zero mistake about it. This is one of the most viciously effective emotional blackmail tools in the entire history of human relationships. When a woman chooses to preface a desire, a request, or a demand with this specific sequence of words, she is not engaging in a healthy, transparent conversation about her genuine needs or compromise. Instead, she is actively weaponizing your profound emotional devotion to her and using it as a heavy psychological hammer to force you into compliance. She is intentionally cornering you into a toxic lose-lose situation where you are forced to choose between two terrible options. Either you completely cave in to her demand, or you hold your ground and risk being labeled as a cold, unloving, uncaring partner who doesn't value the relationship. This is textbook emotional manipulation, plain and simple. Now, this is the exact moment in this video where I need to completely call out a massive number of men who are reading this right now. Way too many of you fall for this exact emotional trap every single time it is laid out for you. You hear those words, and your immediate instinctual reaction is a wave of panic and guilt. You think to yourself, "Oh man, I love her so much. I don't want her to think for a second that I don't care about her or that I'm a bad boyfriend. So I guess I'll just give in this one time to show her my loyalty." Before you even realize what has happened, you find yourself agreeing to things that make you deeply uncomfortable, spending money you absolutely do not have on luxury items or trips, completely cutting off healthy friendships she dislikes for no valid reason, or entirely bending your core morals, principles, and career goals just to avoid a massive argument. The fatal mistake here is failing to realize that the more you give in to this intense emotional pressure, the more you are teaching her that this is her absolute best, most reliable strategy for controlling you. She learns that all she ever has to do to override your logic, your financial boundaries, or your personal comfort is to question the depth of your love for her, and you will immediately drop to your knees and bend over backwards to prove yourself to her. That is not a loving relationship. That is a dynamic of psychological dominance and absolute control. Real, authentic love should never, under any circumstances, be measured by how easily you can be manipulated, guilt-tripped, or coerced into submission. True love is fundamentally built on an unwavering respect for each other's boundaries, individual autonomy, and mutual effort. If you truly care about a woman, you will show it consistently through your voluntary, self-chosen actions. Actions that you actively decide to take out of the abundance of your heart, not actions that you are emotionally hijacked and blackmailed into executing. Men, it is time to wake up and see the matrix. Every single time you cave into this toxic tactic, you are explicitly teaching her that your personal feelings are completely negotiable, your logic is irrelevant, and that she can completely rewrite your boundaries whenever she wants, as long as she applies the exact right amount of emotional guilt and tears. The more you allow this pattern to repeat, the further away you drift from being viewed as a deeply respected, authoritative partner, and the closer you get to becoming a fully controlled, domesticated puppet. The very next time you hear the words, "If you loved me, you would," you need to stop, clear your mind of emotion, and ask yourself a brutally honest question. Is this a request born out of love, or is this a sinister act of manipulation disguised as affection? The answer to that question will instantly tell you everything you need to do next. The fifth and final phrase that should cause you to immediately terminate a relationship is the arrogant statement, "You're lucky to have me." When a woman utters these words to you, it is critical that you do not laugh it off or dismiss it as cute, playful teasing, or a confident joke. This phrase is a calculated psychological anchor designed to plant a permanent seed in your subconscious mind that you are somehow dating way out of your league, that you are reaching up while she is reaching down, and that she is doing you a massive charitable favor just by staying in a relationship with you. Over a long enough period of time, this phrase completely warps and shifts the entire structural dynamic of the partnership. It subtly forces you into an inferior psychological position where she begins to act like an entitled queen who can do no wrong, while you are transformed into a stressed interviewer, constantly working harder and harder, buying more gifts, and tolerating more disrespect just to prove that you are worthy of keeping her around. This is a devastating psychological trap. Instead of a beautiful, balanced relationship where both individuals look at each other with deep gratitude and mutual admiration, you end up trapped in a toxic cycle of chasing her validation while she sits comfortably on a self-built, internet-fueled pedestal. The unyielding truth of human psychology is that healthy, long-lasting relationships are never about who is technically luckier to have who. They are about an equal exchange of value, shared effort, and a deep daily recognition that both partners bring unique, indispensable assets to the table. When a woman constantly positions herself as a rare, priceless treasure, and you as the incredibly fortunate, low-value finder who won the lottery, she is signaling her belief that she is the sole prize to be won, rather than an equal partner who needs to put in work to keep you too. Men, here is a piece of hard, unadulterated truth that you must internalize. If you allow this arrogant mindset to take root in your household, you will spend your entire life walking on eggshells, constantly trying to prove your worth to a person who has already decided you are fundamentally beneath her. A woman who truly respects you, loves you, and views you as a high-value man will never feel the need to verbally remind you of how lucky you are to have her. Why? Because she will naturally show you her appreciation through her cooperative energy, her respect for your leadership, and her warmth. She will make you feel incredibly lucky to have her through her actions, just as you will naturally make her feel like the luckiest woman alive through your protection, provision, and strength. The moment she has to say it out loud, she is trying to establish a hierarchy, and a man who allows himself to be put at the bottom of his own relationship's hierarchy has already lost the game. Gentlemen, you might not like to hear these brutal truths, but avoiding them will only lead to your eventual emotional ruin. The absolute, unshakable reality of relationships is that most men do not lose the women they love because they weren't good enough, rich enough, or attentive enough. They lose them because they consistently ignored the early verbal signs that the woman simply did not respect them as a man. In the blueprint of human psychology, respect must always come before love. Love without respect is nothing more than temporary infatuation, pity, or a recipe for eventual resentment. Once a woman's respect for you has been completely extinguished, absolutely nothing you do, no amount of money you spend, no beautiful speeches you make, and no amount of submission you offer will ever make her stay for the right reasons. Here is a highly controversial reality that modern society loves to deny. A woman can be deeply in love with you and still choose to leave you or treat you terribly, but she will never, under any circumstances, leave a man she genuinely, profoundly respects. If those 5 toxic phrases, "You're too sensitive," "You should be more like him," "I don't need you," "If you loved me, you would," and "You're lucky to have me," are showing up with regular frequency in your daily conversations, you need to wake up from the delusion. You are not in a healthy, loving relationship that just needs a little bit of work. You are stuck in a slow motion, agonizing breakup that simply hasn't been officially announced yet. You are tolerating the slow death of your masculinity, your confidence, and your pride. Protect your mental health, honor your boundaries, and never be afraid to walk away from a table where respect is no longer being served.